Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hey, welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great guest this week from Mexico City, one of the pioneers of marijuana legalization in Mexico. We have Julio Calzada, who is the publisher of the Mexican edition of Cannamo magazine. Cannamo is the Spanish word for hemp and cannabis, and it started in Spain, but he puts out the one in Mexico. We'll be talking to him about that, about an event he's put on annually and is now virtual because of the pandemic, Expo Weed in Mexico City, and his start as an activist as well. And we'll be talking about the current situation in Mexico, where the Senate in Mexico just passed a law to legalize marijuana, but that's just the first step. But before that, we will bring on have our hemp news and then bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
Okay, our hemp news tonight starts with an inspiring story. 71-year-old Richard DeLucy will be released from the South Bay Correctional Facility in Florida after serving 31 years of a 90-year prison sentence for his first and only nonviolent cannabis conviction. DeLucy's release comes on the heels of advocacy efforts and supplements to his clemency application. And the push for clemency was bolstered this year by the threat of COVID-19, which poses a particularly deadly threat to incarcerated people who, due to inadequate facilities and supplies, are incapable of safe social distancing. DeLucy began his 90-year sentence on December 5, 1989. During his time in prison, his son, wife, and both parents have passed away. He'll be released in time for Christmas with his remaining children and grandchildren, which will be the first time in over 30 years that he gets to spend the holidays with family. On a national basis, litigation's pending in 3 states, Mississippi, Montana, and South Dakota, to invalidate successful statewide ballot measures legalizing marijuana access. These are cynical and arguably frivolous attempts to undermine the democratic process. Legalization opponents have shown time and again that they cannot succeed in either the court of public opinion or at the ballot box. Thus, they're now asking judges to set aside the votes of over 1 million Americans in a desperate effort to override undisputed election outcomes. Whether or not one supports marijuana legalization, Americans should be outraged at these overtly undemocratic tactics. In Mississippi, where 73% of voters decided in favor of marijuana legalization, Measure 65, legalizing medical cannabis access, the Mississippi State Supreme Court is scheduled to hear arguments specific to a lawsuit filed by the city of Madison, Mississippi. City officials filed a legal challenge days prior to the election, claiming that the legislature's failure to update guidelines for petitioners should invalidate the initiative vote. Notably, the litigants failed to challenge the legal status of a separate initiative that also appeared on the 2020 ballot, despite the fact that petitioners for that initiative acted no differently than did those who advocated the marijuana measure. In Montana, where 57% of voters decided in favor of Initiative 190, legalizing the adult use marijuana market, a lawsuit has been filed on behalf of the opposition group Wrong for Montana. Their suit claims that the initiative language is unconstitutional because it earmarks a portion of tax revenues from retail marijuana sales. The plaintiffs argue that only the legislature can determine how tax revenue is spent. The suit seeks to void the entirety of the initiative language, not just the portion of the initiative relative to appropriating tax revenues. Litigants filed a similar legal challenge just prior to the election, but the state Supreme Court declined to hear that case. In South Dakota, where 54% of the voters decided in favor of a constitutional amendment, A, legalizing the adult use marijuana market, a pair of law enforcement officers this week filed suit seeking to invalidate the vote based upon the claim that the ballot's language violates the state's single subject rule. Notably, plaintiffs have not similarly challenged a separate 2020 ballot initiative also passed by the voters, legalizing the production and dispensing of medical cannabis. In Nebraska, opponents of a proposed medical marijuana legalization measure successfully litigated to keep it off the ballot by making a similar legal argument. The office of Republican Governor Kristi Noem, who publicly opposed both South Dakota legalization initiatives, is reportedly providing a proportion of the funding for the legal challenge. Prior to the election, marijuana legalization opponents in Arizona also filed a lawsuit attempting to have Proposition 207, the Smart and Safe Arizona Act, struck from the ballot. That litigation was unsuccessful. Arizonans ultimately passed the measure to legalize marijuana by a margin of 60% to 40%. The 2020 election proved once again that marijuana legalization is a winning issue at the ballot box. By contrast, history has shown that it's much more difficult to advance similar measures legislatively, as many lawmakers and Republican legislatures especially still remain reluctant to embrace adult use legalization proposals. Of the 15 states that have now enacted adult use legalization, 13 have done so by voter initiative. Illinois and Vermont are the exceptions. Many states, however, do not offer a citizens' initiative option, meaning that the only way to enact substantial legalization is through the legislative process. Here's a look at the states most likely to legislate legalization in 2020. The first is Connecticut, with Democrats now holding a nearly 2-to-1 majorities in both chambers. The incoming Connecticut House Speaker has publicly estimated the chances of lawmakers legalizing marijuana this next year at 50-50. In New Mexico, members of the Legislative Working Group in October issued recommendations to Democratic Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, urging lawmakers to legalize the adult use cannabis market in 2021. They estimated that'll bring in $620 million a year in revenue. In New York, following the decision of voters in neighboring New Jersey to legalize marijuana, Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo has acknowledged that the pressure will be on New York lawmakers to advance similar adult use legalization legislation next year. According to a just released statewide survey commissioned by Siena College, 60% of registered voters endorsed legalizing marijuana in New York State, the highest level of support ever. Earlier this week, the state Senate majority leader said it's not so much a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how. In Rhode Island, state lawmakers last week held a hearing to discuss the prospects of legalizing adult use marijuana in 2021. The incoming chair of the state Senate Finance Committee predicted that lawmakers will formally debate the issue as early as January. And last but not least, in Virginia, Democratic Governor Ralph Northam publicly announced his support for adult use legalization last week, stating, quote, "It's time to legalize marijuana in Virginia. Our Commonwealth has an opportunity to be the first state in the South to take this step, and will lead with a focus on equity, public health, and public safety. I look forward to working with the General Assembly to get this right," end quote. And Virginia House and Senate leaders are working together to pass some form of legalization. On a national basis, a new study shows a number of adolescents admitted to drug treatment programs for marijuana-related issues has fallen precipitously in states that have legalized and regulated its adult use, according to data published by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDP. The report's entitled Trends in Adolescent Treatment Admissions for Marijuana in the United States, 2008 to 2017, and it finds that nationally, quote, adolescent treatment admissions for marijuana declined in most of the states. The mean annual admissions rate for all states declined over the study period by nearly half, from 60 admissions per 10,000 adolescents in 2008 to 31 in 2017. end quote. States experiencing the steepest level of admissions were among those that enacted adult use legalization laws. Those findings add to the growing body of scientific literature showing that legalization policies can be implemented in a manner that provides access for adults while simultaneously limiting youth access and misuse. So that's something that we had predicted would happen in the campaign for legalization. New study from France: a significant minority of patients with rheumatological diseases such as lupus, fibromyalgia, and rheumatoid arthritis actively consume cannabis, according to data published in this month's edition of the journal Rheumatology. A team of French researchers conducted a meta-analysis of the relevant literature specific to the use of cannabis in patients with rheumatological diseases. The researchers reported that approximately 17% of all patients with rheumatological diseases are active consumers of cannabis. Cannabis use was most common among patients with fibromyalgia. Overall, cannabis consumers tended to be younger in age and were most likely to report using cannabis to mitigate pain. The authors concluded, quote, "In this meta-analysis, we found that 1 in 6 patients suffering from rheumatological diseases actively consumes cannabis, reducing in pain reduction. A favorable effect of cannabis on pain in our meta-analysis reinforces the idea that cannabis could be used for analgesic purposes," end quote. And our last story tonight is from California. A San Luis Obispo County Superior Court judge ruled on Friday that the California Bureau of Cannabis Control, or BCC, overstepped its authority last year by allowing billboards advertising cannabis along freeways, according to a report in the Los Angeles Times. A ban on billboards was included in the state's legalization law, but the BCC last year adopted a regulation allowing such advertisements. Judge Ginger Garrett concluded the agency and outgoing director Lori Ajax, quote, exceeded their authority in promulgating the advertising placement regulation, end quote. The ruling bars billboards along California's 4,315 miles of interstate highways. Garrett ruled that because the billboard ban was included in the voter-approved legalization law, it could not be amended by the BCC through adopting a regulation. And that's the end of our Hemp News segment tonight. Now we go into our interview with Julio Calzada, one of the leaders and pioneers in Mexico's marijuana legalization movement. We're going to be back next week as well, so stay tuned and help us restore hemp. Well, I would like to introduce Julio Calzada of several organizations, including Expo Weed in Mexico City, Canamo Magazine. What's the name of your store there in the old town of Mexico, Julio?
Cannamo Shop.
Cannamo Shop. So anything else, any other titles that I'm forgetting?
We're also working on the Hemp and Cannabis Museum here in Mexico. We have this space together with Cannamo Shop. This is the logo of the store.
All right.
Actually, we are here at the shop right now, and we have books. We try to push the cannabis culture in all the areas that is possible. And I've been working on it since the year of 1998. I started to import hemp products to Mexico and start to sell them first among my friends, and then I started to sell in some shops. And then some scandal happened after I gave some interviews, and the people went to the shops looking for the marijuana clothes, trying to find the psychoactive effect on it.
The cloth.
They made like a whole week of news about it, and as I was not prepared for that exposure.
What year was that?
1998.
1998. Okay, so 22 years ago.
Yes. So in these TV pieces that they were doing, they interviewed some of the authorities about the clothes in Mexico, and they said that they didn't know anything about the cannabis fabric. And then I realized that we're deep in a deep uh, hole of on knowledge, and I got a book that is called The Great Book of Hemp, and this book helped me realize that there were many uses of for cannabis. I was a cannabis aficionado, but I didn't have all this information that I got until later, after maybe a few years of consumption. And yes, exactly, that book changed my life, because then I realized that everything, all the
And just say that I'm on like page 3 and 4 in here, or 4 and 5 for my hemp paper club. So that's why I always say
yes,
I,
it's an
I
amazing,
hemp paper.
it's an amazing book that changed my perspective, or opened it in a very positive way. And then I realized that we have to share this information to the Mexican people, because here we have a long tradition about cannabis, but we don't have knowledge about it. And I am a filmmaker, and then I realized that we are educated with TV, and I realized that I had to do a documentary about cannabis in Europe, where the perspective is different than Mexico. So I traveled to Europe in the year 2000, and I interviewed a lot of people from Cáñamo Magazine in Spain. I interviewed the people from the Madrid Association for Cannabis Studies. I interviewed Felipe Borrallo, that is an important uh, bookseller in Barcelona, and he's also a partner of Cannamo Magazine. In France, I interviewed, that is a very important activist and book editor.
The
Uh,
hemp.
yep, yep. And I also traveled to Amsterdam. I interview Arjan. I interview Alan Drunkers. I interview in Germany. I interview Mr. Nice. I interview the guys of Cypress Hill, also in Germany, that were touring. Um, I made a lot of contacts. I traveled also to England to interview to the Dr. Jeffrey Guy, that is maybe one of the oldest persons doing uh, medicaments from
The
cannabis.
founder of GW Pharmaceuticals, which has FDA approved cannabis medicines for epilepsy in spray form, in CBD and THC. The only pharmaceutically available cannabis outside of synthetic THC.
The Sativex.
Yeah.
Yes, and I interviewed also the guys from the Body Shop in England, and I interviewed as many people as I could. I interviewed also to Bruno in Switzerland. That was the first person that was caught in Switzerland for selling the cannabis pillows.
Yeah, the scent bags. I went to Switzerland too.
Yes, and it was a very interesting moment in the year 2000. And then the next year, I went back to Europe. I was also in Lugano for a while, training some bot. And then I came back to Mexico and tried to put everything that I learned on practice. And then when I was selling books in my website, and then Leopoldo Rivera, that you also know,
Yeah.
bought a book from me, and I went to deliver the book in a restaurant, and then we had a conversation about the need that is in Mexico to create a new activist movement, uh, to show the people that cannabis is not a harmful plant. And
Today, just today, I was reading an article about marijuana legalization there in Mexico in the Economist magazine, and it quoted Leopoldo Rivera. I sent that to him too, but he said it was a good analysis. But you two have started to make real political change now, and We'll go into more of that. Did your movie come out that you recorded for?
Yeah, yeah, you can see it on YouTube. It's
Oh,
called Mundo Canábico Europe or Europa, Mundo Canábico Europa, and you
uh,
can check it out on YouTube.
okay. Okay. We'll have to put a link up for that. So how long is it?
It's 40 minutes.
Okay, not too long.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know about that, even though I've known you for years. But go ahead. So you started to set up a political group with Leopoldo Rivera in, did you say 2001?
Yeah, in the year 2000 or until and 2001, we started to have conversations about the things that I learned in Europe, like the Madrid Association for Cannabis Studies. Then we brought that example to Mexico, and we created the Mexican Association for Cannabis Studies. And also, I went to the Hemp Parade in Berlin, and I realized that big demonstrations about cannabis were possible, and we started to make the marijuana march, the Million Marijuana March in the year 2001. Here in Mexico, we were only 15 people in the first edition. We didn't even march, but we had a reunion of people, and we shared Canyamo magazine and some High Times magazines with the people that were assisting.
So
All
at that time, you're talking about the Spanish Cannamo magazine from Spain.
yes, yes.
But now you publish your own Cannamo branch from for Mexico,
Yeah,
right?
it's a long way that we have to run to be able to publish our own magazine in Mexico, because in the beginning we tried to bring cáñamo from Spain, but it was super expensive just to transport the magazines from Spain to Mexico, and they were doing it for a while, but it was not. There was no profit, and it was just I don't know. It was not a business like that.
You can't do it and lose money for long unless you're rich.
Exactly, and we were not. So what we started to do, and we created the cannabis libraries. So the people from Canyon Magazine gave us a whole collection of their magazines, and we put it in a place in Centro Cultural La Pirámide that is being there for 18 years maybe. Uh, and then we created the first cannabis library with the first collection of Cáñamo magazines, and then we started to feed the the library with more titles about cannabis. So as much as we got as much books as we could, and to share them with people with no cost. So we started to create this cannabis culture with no resources, but it was a seed that was planted that today is there are many things happening. So
Yeah.
at the same time, we also were writing for Cáñamo, and we were making pictures for Cáñamo Spain. We were already collaborating with them, and then they made the experiment to do their own magazine in Chile, because the reality of Chile was different, and
Yeah.
they
We
shared.
first in Chile when we were at Expo Weed in Chile, I think in 2014, probably, maybe 2015.
Exactly. And then these guys started to make the magazine in Chile, and they had success. And the people from Spain thought that it was maybe a good model to bring to Mexico. So we worked for 2 years, gathering the content and checking all the permits and everything, checking the printer and checking numbers and everything that we need to see to develop the magazine in Mexico. And we did it. We started to print Cáñamo magazine in the year 2015, and and yeah, we've been publishing now for 5 years in Mexico. The magazine is published now in Colombia, as you know, in Chile, and in Spain. Uh,
What's your circulation in Mexico? How many do you print in Mexico right now?
we print 5,000 issues.
Okay. I just picked one up in Guadalajara when I was there last week, but It looks good. You guys have great artwork. That's for sure.
Yes, we always try to do to go one step beyond, and we make our covers with augmented reality and stuff like that. That is innovation for the all the printing all the printed industry.
And then you started, we met, I know we talked about it at Expo Weed in Chile. And then you started to work with doing Expo Weed in Mexico City. Was that in 2016?
Yes, I think that 2015 we had the first edition, and now we are going for the sixth edition. We had a digital edition this summer because we were not able to do it presential for the COVID. But now we're having a presential small event in the beginning of December. You're totally invited as always.
I don't think I can make it right now, but sometime when I can, we'll talk. But
Yeah,
thank you.
we're trying to keep the pressure on the society for to say it in somehow. But most of society are the authorities. As you know, last week something happened historically in Mexico.
Because that's the biggest thing in marijuana in Mexico. The Senate passed this law, didn't they? On was it Thursday or Friday?
Yes, yes, it was on Wednesday. It was on Thursday actually. Uh, So, but this law is not making us happy. Yet it opens a window for the industry and for the self growing, but it's still stepping on the human rights. So we're not happy with this law as it is. Now it's going to the deputy chamber. Then we're trying to do the right pressure so they change the things that we don't like from that law, and hopefully in 1 year or so we will have a nice law that will give freedom to everybody.
So right now, it's a law is passed. I know it will only allow people to grow 6 plants, and you'd have to register with the government to even grow your own 6 plants, right? It'd be some national cannabis registry or something.
Yeah, I think that they register, but there are still uh, punishments, like money punishment that you have. I don't know the word in English, but when the police stop you and you have to pay a fine. Yes, you have to pay a fine if you are smoking or if you're caught with more than 28 grams and with a limit of 200 grams. After 200 grams, you can even you can get a big fine or you can go to jail. Depends on the amount that you're carrying.
I see. So uh, you want to kill this bill in the House of Deputies. So there's a bicameral legislature. It's the United States, for my American audience, the United States of Mexico, and there are 31 states. And so the federal legislature in Mexico City had one chamber has passed this law that the movement doesn't like because of these restrictions. And I can understand that. That's a pretty serious limit in terms of our cannabis culture that we need to establish. So, does it look like it's going to die? I've heard that the president is against any bill. Is that true?
Yes, yes, the president is against it because it's he's a conservative guy that he even complains about the conservative people, but he's a conservative guy. He has
Even
compromises
though I
with.
consider more progressive and leftist in terms of the governments in Mexico. He's
Yeah,
at left of the old PRI, the main party that dominated politics for a long time, right?
yeah, but it happens like every time that you trust a politician. You know,
Yeah.
in their campaign they said we are going to legalize cannabis and blah blah blah, and after that it's been 2 years already, and they don't want to talk about it in a serious way. You know.
So How does it look in the House of Deputies? You think you'll get a different law out of them next year?
We have to make a lot of pressure. We have to make a lot of we must have a lot of conversations with the deputies. We have to make them understand what we are trying to do. That we are trying to put away risks from the population. And once that they understand that, I think that we can move forward. But I think that also there are some dark interests from the politician. Uh, how do you say the politician family? Yes,
Corruption paying money from both probably the Canadians trying to dominate the industry, plus the cartels. They probably want to have it steer their way if at all possible. And of course, they have a lot of money.
yes, but I don't think that the cartels are against the legalization or so.
Good, good.
What I heard, but it's difficult. It's very difficult to have something progressive with people with so closed minds, because it's about a common sense. We took we have a little exhibition of the cannabis museum where we show textiles, paper, food, medicaments, cosmetics, and we bring that to the deputy chamber and to the senator chamber to show them that in their own eyes what you can do with cannabis.
I saw a picture of a senator's desk with a marijuana plant on the senator's desk there. That was
I don't know if you know that since the beginning of February there is
the
a
plant
protest.
420 plant on. I
Yes,
wanted, yeah, talk. I do know about it. I met Miguel HDP and some other people in Guadalajara, but talk about it. You know a lot more about it than I do.
yes, it's an initiative from my partner Leopoldo. He's part of we are part of the Mexican cannabis movement, and they decided to start this pacific protest, like by planting cannabis plants in front of the Senate, and they started with a small amount, but they then more people were involved, and it's amazing what they created because now it
Right
increased.
on the Capitol grounds there in Mexico City. It's right on in front of their building.
Exact, and it has been a very good way to catch their attention because there is people smoking and they feel the smell of the cannabis smoke, and
There's a big garden. I think they have 1,200 plants. Is that right?
yes,
1,200 plants
yes,
growing right
now
there.
winter is coming and the plants are not that much
Uh-huh.
or not that big, but it's impressive what they done because they've been during the whole pandemic period. They there have people there like risking their lives to take care of the plants and to take care that nobody takes them away. So there is people in custody of the plants 24 hours a day since the beginning of February. So they've been there for like 8 months, like resisting and consolidating this space. Now because of the COVID, the space is closed by a fence that the government placed. That did help because there were some drug dealers that were trying to do some business over there, and they put this fence, and it helped to keep the not positive people away from the planton.
And protection.
And then the people then it became a safe place to smoke. So if you want to smoke a joint in the city, you go to the planton, you go ask for permission to get in. They'll give you permission, of course, and then you can smoke your joints over there and nobody bothers you. Then you can go out all high and nobody. It's a tool for harm reduction and for extortion reduction. Because if you are caught in the street smoking, the most possible thing is that you will be extortionated by the police.
Yeah.
And they steal your material.
Right. Right. I've had that happen. I think we all have at some point. The cop goes, "Oh, you got good stuff." Oh.
Exactly.
But, so they're out there in front of the Senate, and there's a bill that passed. Do you think that bill is being? I didn't realize it was overly restrictive. I thought perhaps it will finally talk about how that bill came about. How the Supreme Court ordered the legislature to change the marijuana laws. If you would, please, Julio.
The order of the Supreme Court is to give freedom to the people, but the legislators doesn't want to give freedom to the people, so they are finding all the ways to keep the punishment, to keep the fines, and what we need is to if you have a relationship with cannabis, you shouldn't go to jail, right? So whatever relationship you want to have with the plant, you shouldn't go to jail. So, but they are trying to keep all these punishments, and in a corrupt place, that doesn't matter if you have a gram, and they say that 2 grams is out of the law. They put you a kilo and they take you to jail if they want. So what we need is to get rid to all these opportunities for extortion, because at the end, the law as it is happening today, if it passes as it is, it will be a tool for extortions, and we are tired of that.
I think something that I'll go ahead and just kind of explain is that there were a series of criminal cases where people argued that they had an inherent right to use cannabis to the Mexican courts, and those cases went up to the Supreme Court, and they had to rule 5 different times before they forced the legislature to take action. When was the first of those 5 cases? It was over a period of several years, but I think it's been more than a year and a half since the Supreme Court ruled the legislature has to change the law, right?
Yeah, because of this Supreme Court order, now if you ask for the permission to grow cannabis, the law should give you the permit. So it's the thing that we advise to the people is that get this paper with the lawyer, so they are protected against the law as it will come.
So after the Supreme Court made this order, they set a deadline for legalization, and that deadline has been pushed out how many times?
About 3 or 4. It's been like forever for me. That's why I don't put so much hopes on the politicians. I put more hope on the activists or on the people that is calling for common sense to the people to disobey laws that are ridiculous.
So does it look like this current bill will die in the other half of the legislature, in the House of Deputies, that the Senate passed?
We still have to see. As far as I know, in my, how do you say, rumor says that the deputies have the order to send it to deny it, to not allow it.
Mm-hmm.
We will see. Then we will see. Then we have clear that we have to make a lot of pressure on the deputies since today, beginning today, to see what's their position and to try to have a majority that is with us trying to defend the human rights, because then the legislation as it is right now, it only benefits to people that wants to make business and leaves outside to the consumers, just the regular pot consumers.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like it's a sellout to big business, which is something we've seen in a lot of different states. Here in the United States, it's been very piecemeal. So each different state has a different model, and some of them are worse than others. Yeah. But all of them seem to be for big business. Some states worse than others. There have been some that have been voted down. One in Ohio, in particular, that would have only allowed 10 businesses to control the marijuana market, that was voted down. But so far, we haven't got much traction with the federal government. But even if this passes, the current bill passes in the House of Deputies, it seems like your president doesn't want to sign it.
Yes, the president still have the power of not signing the new law, but it's happening now. Now we conquer different spaces, like in the same TV show that they talk crazy things about cannabis when I was selling the stuff, and now they are giving us space to speak well about cannabis. So it's an interesting change that is happening, because now we have more more media, or more spaces in the mass media to talk about cannabis. And now is not, you don't need to speak bad about cannabis anymore, because the evidence is so much. And it's very good when you don't use the TV time to talk nonsenses about cannabis and stuff like that. So we're happy to conquer these spaces uh, for communicating the right message about cannabis.
Right. It's a lot better to talk about making the political changes to make it better, instead of talking about the myth.
Children will become heroin addicts, or those very old school ideas.
Yeah, yeah. I'm very familiar with those over the years, fortunately. But fortunately, we're beyond that now. So, tell us more about your magazine. It's been coming out now for 5 years. Does it have a separate website from the one in Spain, Colombia, and Chile?
Yes, we have our own website, is canamo.mx. And the thing is that we try to attract and to identify the Mexican readers and the Mexican people that is interested in all this culture around cannabis, and to have our own market. I know that the market in Spain has been there for 20 years, and they are always interested in what happens in Mexico. But I think that to create our own culture with that strong, how do you say, background from Cáñamo, I think it's interesting. It's a good opportunity also to take Mexican culture beyond our borders.
Well, Mexico is the largest Spanish-speaking country, even though it's bigger than any of the others individually. It's a major, the major mover, I think, in the international culture.
Yep.
Interesting how it plays together. So, how often does Cannamo come out?
Sadly, we have to. Well, okay. Normally, we were going every 2 months, and now we have to go every 3 months. So we are publishing only 4 magazines a year. And
the business is shut down by the COVID pandemic and the economy crashing. A lot of print magazines all over the world have gone out, but you still maintain your website too.
yeah, we have the digital version and the printed version. Let me show you.
There they are
They
on
are
the shelf. There's the new one.
the most recent.
Move it over a little bit more. There. Now I can see it. That's your new cover. I just picked up one in Guadalajara last week, or they gave me one.
And
I can thank you.
Prior number.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys have some great art.
And as I told you, we're trying to innovate in graphics and technology. And we have our application to see the covers of the magazine and some advertising with augmented reality. So if you, I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, I can see that on your phone. Move it a little bit more toward the center. No, the other way. Back where I think, I'm not, oh yeah. So there's someone there. That's pretty cool. I don't think I've seen that anywhere else outside of your guys' use of that.
Like that. Okay, you can see now.
I remember you had the rooster, which is the Spanish word gallo for a joint. And so you at the expo, you had the rooster with that kind of a 3D. There he is.
Yes, I have my own brand for smoking accessories, and also with the augmented reality. There, let me show you.
You guys are on the cutting edge of this stuff. It's really kind of cool. High Times just crashed in the United States. So.
Yep. Let me see.
Oh yeah, that's pretty neat. A little, yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so the idea is to have fun and to educate people and to smoke joints and be happy.
Amen. Amen. That's what I think as well. And make sure our people are out of jail and our families aren't being destroyed by stupidity is what it is. The cannabis prohibition was always about money and power and making sure that, the rich get rich and the poor stay poor. And so we're still fighting that.
Absolutely, Paul. We will fight until the end.
Yeah. It's a constant urge. I think that you guys are making some real progress there. Like I said, I picked up the Economist magazine, which I have subscribed to since I was a teenager. They have always advocated for legalization, and they're based in London. But they quoted Leopoldo Rivera there, and they said Mexico will probably become the third country after Uruguay and Canada to be legal. So even though we have some states legal.
That would be a dream come true.
Yeah.
But with the right laws, we don't want some laws that are still punishing the users, because we've been users for 30 years or more, and we've been risking our freedom for 30 years or more, and we don't want that anybody risk their freedom anymore for having a relationship with a beautiful and powerful plant.
Yeah, we need this plant to save our environment and stop deforestation with its fiber and stop pumping petroleum. We need our farmers to be able to produce this for fuel, fiber, all its benefits. And I don't think we need the low THC limit. That's ridiculous. If we're going to grow hemp for seed, the THC level should not matter. If you're going to grow hemp for fiber, the THC level should not matter. It should matter what's the best seed and what's the best fiber, not the THC level. It shouldn't be an issue, I think. And I think eventually we should get there.
Totally agree with you.
I know you do. So, so if somebody wants to find your shop on the internet, is it part of Canamo.mex or?
The easiest way is to find us on Instagram with Canamo Shop MX.
Okay, Cannabis Shot MX. What about the 420 Planton and the movement for human rights in the legislature? Someone wants to find out more about that. What is the best place to go look for that?
They should go to the social media of the Movimiento Canábico Mexicano. Movimiento
Mhm.
Canábico Mexicano is the responsible for the Plantón. So, it's a group of organizations that has all these human rights line before anything else.
So it's an umbrella group that of the different groups across the country.
Yes.
I see. I see. So any other websites or anything you want to promote before we go?
I, we want to invite everybody to Expo Wheat. We're having a hybrid version on the 4th, 5th, and 6th of December. So everybody that wants to see what's happening in Mexico will be able to join us in a digital way. And also, whoever wants to start a business of cannabis in Mexico can go to our presential event that will be small, only 20 booths of the most representative brands in the cannabis world in Mexico. And
Is that going to be at the Indigenous Expo Center that you've held it at in the past?
no,
Or
it's a different spot here close to the shop.
I see, I see. So what our audience probably doesn't know is where your shop's at. You want to tell them where your shop is located because it's in the main old town of Mexico there, city.
Absolutely, we are in the main pedestrian street in Mexico City, going to the Zócalo. We are in Madero number 18. I'm sorry, Madero number 28. Madero number 28 in the heart of Mexico City. It's called Cáñamo Shop. You can see my friend there advertising with the with the cannabis head.
Outfit. I've seen some photos. We'll have to put some of those up there.
We have our mascot
Ah,
Ramon
he's
Cañamón.
a toy. He's a toy. So do you have Lucho's game in there that he's made? He said he was going to be selling some of those board games that he made
Yeah,
in there too.
I have here. Me pasas el juego de Luca, por favor.
Yeah,
I will show.
I don't think I've talked about this on my TV show, but I am actually a board piece in this game. I am. There's only it's various cannabis strains, sativa versus indica. There's the purple haze edition. I see. And so you have all of these, and I think that Jack Harrer is the activist piece for the sativas, and I am the indica piece for the game. We're the only two people in there. My late friend Jack Harrer and I would never have imagined myself as a Mexican wrestler, but obviously Lucho did a little bit more. Yeah, there's yeah, one strain. So there you have all these different strains that are versus each other, but it's pretty amazing.
Yes, it's very. It's a game created by a rap artist that is always joining us with, and he has a very uh, cannabis oriented mind, and he created this from scratch, and it's amazing. It's just it's unique in the world, you know. So it has a like a normal version and also the smoking version. So if you throw the dice, then you have to smoke certain amounts of weed and stuff like that. So it's
It
funny.
sounds fun. It sounds fun, but I was pretty surprised when he had a cartoon version of me and my friend Jack Harrer in there, and that was pretty amazing to me. He sent me a version though, so I have one here in my office. I haven't figured out how to play it yet, though. I've got. We'll see how it goes. Well,
Yeah.
Julio, I want to thank you for coming on our show here. We'll have to do it again. And thank you for inviting me to come down to Expo Weed all these years. That's been a pleasure to meet and get to know you. And I really admire your work, Leopoldo Rivera's work, everyone in Mexico City. You have a great cannabis culture that's very supportive.
Thank you, Paul. It's an honor for me to be with you. You're a real fighter for all over these years, and it's amazing to be in your show that you were holding for so many years. And count with me whenever you want. I am happy to share what is happening in Mexico with you and your audience.
And I want to tell our audience as well, after several trips to Mexico City, it's very safe. People worry about violence and things, and Mexico City is very safe, and they've got such incredible museums, and the pyramids just a short distance out of Mexico City are just incredible. So, and it's relatively inexpensive too. So I know some people go there just to save money. A lot of American retirees move to Mexico to save money.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah, it is. All right. Well, thank you again, Julio. My best to everyone there, and I look forward to seeing you there sometime soon. Good luck with the online presence. My pleasure too. Good luck through the pandemic. Bye-bye.
See you soon, brother.
Restore him, and I know you will.
Ganja, we want Metaganja. Ganja, we learn to grow Metaganja. Stick it in the ground, water it down, Metaganja. Woohoo! Ganja. We need Metaganja. Ganja. We need to share Metaganja. It's renewable energy. Find clothes for you and me. Metaganja. Woohoo! Ganja. We like Metaganja. Ganja. We like to use Metaganja. For food or medicine, prohibition must end.